Hello, Cynthia.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yes.
Good. What are we going to talk about today?
YouTube versus podcasting. Welcome to the Marketing Duo podcast, the podcast where marketing experts Cynthia of Digital Bloom IQ and Jen of Jen Vasquez Media come together to share their wealth of knowledge and insights on scaling your business.
Each episode, Cynthia and Jen dive into the latest marketing strategies, mindset shifts, and also growth tactics specifically designed for ambitious female founders who are tech savvy and eager to enhance their marketing game.
Whether you're looking to fine-tune your approach or discover innovative ways to accelerate your business, the Marketing Duo podcast provides actionable tips and inspiring conversations to help you reach your goals.
Tune in for a blend of practical advice and empowering discussions tailored to help you thrive in the ever-evolving digital landscape.
It's a good topic. Yeah.
Yes. And this is a note, and we noted this in one of the earlier episodes that we had recorded this and I somehow lost that recording. So we're going to redo it right here. That's just a little sign for you that if you're in business, nothing is ever perfect and you're just going to work around it. So I just wanted to make a point of that because I love that on our podcast, we show you the back end of the business, the good, bad, and the interesting.
The not so fabulous.
Exactly.
So why did we decide on this topic? I mean, initially, I think it was one of the first episodes we actually recorded.
It was because it was Zoom. So it was real early.
So a lot of people ask, at least they ask me like, oh, you have a podcast. That's amazing. And like, I think there could be like a conflict there of like, well, should I invest in like these podcasting stuff or should I do a YouTube? And so our answer is not what you would expect. And of course, Jen, I want your take on this, but I really think that if you are willing to invest time and energy into doing some content creation, right? Why don't just do both? And what that could look like for you could be like this, like talking with someone and turning on the camera and having a conversation. Or it could be like a little bit more fancy if you're into, with the YouTube, it is more visual. So you could have like, I don't know, just more cuts and things like that. But anything, whether you start with the YouTube or the podcast, I feel like it can go both ways. And it's not that difficult to just extract audio from a YouTube and make that a podcast episode, right? As long as you don't have long periods of like silence or music or something, right?
Yeah. That wouldn't be good. But I'm the same. I do get this question a lot. And now that we've taken on podcasting services, I hear this all the time. So we're investing in a podcast, or my coach tells me I need a podcast, or whatever pops up. If you have a podcast, there's literally no reason why you should not have it on YouTube. There's just not. You take that same, video, or some of my clients are not as comfortable on, video.
Yeah.
And so they have more of like a video, for lack of a better term, it's like an animated video.
Yeah.
Like on one of our podcasts, we've got kind of smoke in the background and it shows our podcast, because there are a lot of people that don't watch on YouTube. They listen on YouTube, and vice versa. Some people that watch and then read the word, the closed caption on the bottom, and they don't have the volume on. So people, I mean, these days you can just do what you want to do in that, just taking that education any way you want to take it. But because you have this recording already for your podcast, there's no reason why you should not have it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I will point out, a lot of people connect with me through my podcast. Like that's where they first kind of find me, right? Is on the podcast. And I do get bookings from that, but I will be honest, and more bookings come from YouTube than come from a podcast.
That's so interesting, right?
For me,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but for me, more clients tend to come from YouTube, but I enjoy doing the podcast. So my point is I'm always going to do both, and it's not different content on both platforms. It's the exact same content, because there's one thing I know to be true. You as a person, depending on what you're doing, if it's work or personal, most business owners will either be podcast first. That's the first place they go for information, especially moms. They can listen in the car with the kids, or they can listen while they're taking their kids to some sports activity or whatever. Or you're a YouTube person. I mean, some people are watching YouTube on their television. I'm pointing to my television. Are watching YouTube on their television as streaming, right?
Yeah.
Not even going on Hulu or the other places. Yeah. So, and I do both. I listen to podcasts and I watch YouTube. I totally do both. But there's different people. So it's unusual for someone to listen to you on a podcast and watch your YouTube videos. So I can see why people would be confused.
Yeah.
But I've had 2 clients that booked me that said, one said they found me on my podcast, and one that said they found me on my YouTube. The person that said they found me on my YouTube originally found me from Instagram. And the person that listens to podcasts found me from YouTube and went to listen on their like, it's bizarre. Like there's a lot of people will tend to go toward one for certain things, like maybe education. I love podcasts, but if it's how to do something, I want to watch a video. So it just depends.
It depends. Yeah. So another tip I wanted to say is, like, if you're just doing like this, like a podcast audio, and you don't want to have a video on, you could just do a still frame. I've done that before with some episodes. I'll just have one image. Now, is that as stimulating on YouTube as a video of your face talking? No, it isn't, because people like to see faces and talking, and it's more engaging, but it still counts. Like, I just learned, not that long ago, but it's been in my brain from the beginning of my business. Just do it how best you can in the moment. And you can always go back and re-upload it if it's, like, that's the worst that can happen.
Or on my podcast with my co-host on books that we read.
Yes. We know you have multiple podcasts.
we don't have video on that. So we have a still frame of our podcast logo and smoke moving in the background so that it's a little bit of animation. But that's something I made in Canva.
Yeah.
And I just use it on every video. It's not that hard. But we are going to videos. So you can start easy putting a still photo, and I would choose the still photo to be of your podcast art. I would recommend that, because you want them to know where you are. But also, you can change it up and then do video. Yeah, I also have a client that does it every once in a while. So, like, if she's busy, she's just getting on her little podcast mic and doesn't want to do any, like, she's in her pajamas. That's what she does for the week. But then sometimes she'll do videos. That is not as effective, I would say, going back and forth, because there needs to be some consistency. But you literally, like we say a million times on here, you could do whatever you want in your business. You're the boss.
I think at the beginning, like, what I have found, and I still find, is it's so overwhelming to do each platform exactly in the best way, unless you want to become like this crazy marketer. Like, there's people who just want to be marketers and they want to get good at all these platforms. That's totally acceptable. But maybe you're like, you're a therapist, or you're a service provider, or your product e-commerce business, and you just want to do what you do best, and you want this podcast to promote your business, but you don't really want to become like a YouTube expert, right? So what do you do there? Just repurpose. And then when you have a budget, you hire a YouTube service agency to do it for you, but you don't
Yes.
need to wait. Like, start publishing whatever you have
No.
now, and it won't be perfect, and that's fine. But if getting the content out there, it still can be effective. And then when you have, the thing is, if you start to build traction now, by the time you have a budget, you have a great baseline that makes everybody's job easier, and the results will come faster versus starting from zero, right? And that will take time, and you have to, put more and more content in there. That's what I find is like, if you can repurpose, and we have an episode about repurposing as well, but like, especially with this podcast, YouTube thing, just repurpose in whatever direction you can. And then you can always hire someone when you're ready to help you do it like a little bit more focused, or, with YouTube, there's so many things you could do. It could literally be a whole thing, right? Of having like these beautiful videos going out with your content.
And I will say too, that there's something to be said for when you first podcast or YouTube, it's awful. I don't want you going back in time. You can right now if you want to. Go back and see all my videos and all my different hair colors and all the things, right? What you talked about of just doing it, right? We talk a lot on this podcast about them getting started messy.
Yeah.
Doing it messy. Nobody wants to do it messy.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it messy, but we did. We started with Zoom, and we started with just talking. I feel like I could literally name probably right now 7 different people that I know that are thinking, and I see you out there. You're going to be talking. I know you'll say, I know you were calling me out on the podcast. I'm like, yes, I was. But there are 7 people, and I'm definitely not mentioning names, of people thinking about doing a podcast. And one of my friends has been thinking about it for 5 years.
Whoa.
And she came to me the other day and she said, how did you do it? I guess I'll just have to wait till I have money to pay you to do it, or pay someone to do it. And I was like, just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it. Even not great, even if it's just with your laptop.
Yeah.
Just start.
Just start.
Just start. Because I promise you, as you start going and you're feeling a little better, then you can go ahead and hire out or do whatever. But just start, I think, is my
Yeah, I think it's like our recurring theme as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you discover it. I've already mentioned this in another podcast, but you discover it as you do it. Like, I think a lot of people are waiting to feel the confidence before, but honestly, that confidence and that style, that way of your style of speaking, of explaining, of your personality, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be developed as you start to use that muscle. It doesn't happen the other way around unless you did like a previous
learn
job.
And then do. You can't learn and then do. Your learning is through doing, for both podcast and YouTube.
Absolutely.
I literally agree with you on that.
Yeah. And it's hard because, like Jen said, it's messy. It's awkward at the beginning. I remember those first episodes. I would spend more time editing than recording because I wanted to take out every and ah, and I just hearing myself was. And I still can't really listen to my own episodes.
No.
But now I can really enjoy it, and I can, perfect things. And I probably still say a bunch of times. But overall, I've gotten better because I've just been doing it for a long time. And you can always, like we talked about, you can always go back and remove any, don't remove all of them. But if you need to remove some content, you can do that. And just find a way to make it easy. Something else that helped me at the beginning is I had tons of guest episodes. And the reason I did that is because it forced me to actually do it, because I scheduled this time with someone and I need to show up, and it's someone I respect. Or, I talked about my Mike Michalowicz interview. Of course I'm not going to cancel on Mike Michalowicz. How dare I, right? So it was literally okay, if I schedule this time and I'm just there, because maybe for some of you, there's also this thing of no one will hear it. And I get that. That's a real fear, right? that feeling of like you're putting your heart and soul into this and like, you know, boom, 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 like no views, no downloads, whatever. We all start from zero there too. But if you can have someone you can, you know, interview, that can be a great way to get the ball rolling, and you slowly build that confidence, and you find your style through doing.
Yeah. And I interviewed Jessica Stansberry, who's a YouTuber, and very excited because I had watched her, I should say, for years. And one of my questions to her was, what is the biggest mistake that you see people making with YouTube? And she started laughing and she goes, just do it. Like, just doing it. Like the biggest mistake that she has with her clients are people that talk about it and learn about it, but they never do it. Well, I'll start in a month when I'm ready, or
Right.
I'll start in a month when I have the content down, or just take it just like Alcoholic Anonymous, right? Take it a day at a time, right? Just a day at a time. Take it a video at a time. And you don't need to do it every week, but on YouTube, you will be rewarded if you do it every week. I have to put that out there. People that do it on a weekly basis tend to have better growth, better results, and quicker, right? But if that's not doable for you, it doesn't mean to not do
it. That's not another
do it in your way.
We see you excuse makers like, oh, that means I can't do it. No, like I've seen 5-minute podcasts. I've seen 2-hour podcasts, like whatever is more motivating for you. Maybe you don't want to talk to people. Maybe you want to do a solo show. Maybe you need like, I don't know, threesome is also an option, although that could get kind of loud. You know, I've also done a few episodes, but this has been recently, is like I'll take video content from my SEO membership or from my course, and I'll make those episodes. So if you are like really active, maybe on Instagram or social media, could you start repurposing? The only thing there, the caveat there is I do recommend doing a unique intro for the podcast or the YouTube video. So it's not just diving into this random conversation where no one knows what you're talking about. So do a little intro introducing it, literally like 2 minutes, you know, just saying like, hey, this is what I think about that. Because I do feel like people want to feel that special touch of like, oh, I'm on your podcast or on your YouTube channel. But other than that, like there's just so many ways that it doesn't have to be complex.
Yeah. And there was, marketing school. Yeah. With Eric Sue and
I was
Neil
just
Patel.
looking at that today.
Marketing school. I have been listening to that probably since they started. They do like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, they do very short episodes. It's annoyingly short. I actually don't like Neil Patel, but that's a whole other story.
It's a whole other story. Truly it is. But what my point was is that like they will spend 2 hours together. This is what they had talked about at one point. And they do all these topics in 10-minute, like a question or whatever it is. And they just talk about it. And then they break it up and then slowly release it every day.
Yeah. Like once a day. They have 1 episode a day. They have like 1,000 episodes at this point. Like
I know, but it is proof because it's a very popular one.
Yeah,
it's proof that you don't have to do the norm. I do not recommend doing daily. I don't know anybody that would take that on in their business. Like if they're not a podcaster, like if they have a business that they're looking to do a podcast, I don't think daily would be effective. But I have a friend who started her podcast by doing a podcast episode every day for 5 days and then did it week by week to get some growth. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but just know that there's no way that's perfect for you.
Yeah.
You need to consider the time you have to give. So don't set limitations for yourself. Just turn on the mic and start talking about what you're passionate about. As business owners, we have all kinds of opinions, and a podcast is just one big opinion.
Yeah.
Really? That's what it is.
Yeah.
So our answer to that question, podcast versus YouTube channel, yeah, both, and both.
Yeah, the other person I saw doing this daily, I don't know if he's still doing it, is Pat Flynn, the Smart Passive Income. And that's actually a good resource as well, because he's got this really good podcasting, how to start a podcast guide. Maybe we'll include that in the show notes. Because I know for a lot of you, maybe you're more like pragmatic and you're like, just give me a list, and it's like, okay, here you go. I don't know, maybe we could find one for YouTube as well. But this is great because it tells you like how to choose a topic, how to pick a name, like all those little things where you're like, I'm stuck. And you just need to start, and you can always change the name. I've seen podcasts that have changed names like 10 times, and like, as long as the content's good, like, I don't know.
Well, we talked about we talked about names of our business in another episode. One of mine was women who execute. That's what it started as.
I love that. Yeah, you need to
go back and listen to that episode.
You need to have an awkward first name. That's how to start it. You need to have that story of like, this is just something my like neighbor told me, and I just went with it. Like.
Yeah, and I've seen big named people with like big podcasts that change their name. It is not that big of a deal. You can change the cover photo. I have one client who took a really long time to publish their podcast because they were stuck on the podcast artwork. And that's okay to be really interested in that, but don't let that stop you and delay your podcast, because if you are delayed by 3 months, your growth is delayed by 3 months. Like, the growth only happens as you're doing it. So,
it's the same thing that we were saying before. Like, just pick a Canva template, like literally put a timer on your phone and just pick something, 5 minutes. Pick.
You can change it 18 times.
You can change it later. You can hire a graphic designer who specializes in podcast graphics. Like, I don't think I actually have had ever in my, 7 years of podcasting had a graphic designer who's designed my podcast graphics yet. Maybe this year, because I'm starting to rebrand, but like, that's never been an issue, and it shouldn't be an issue. Now, can it help? Absolutely. But it's not going to be the determining factor, right? It's going to be like a detail.
It just isn't.
And same with the name. I feel like a lot of people get stuck on the name. Just name it your name podcast. And like, that's how you can start. Like, a lot of people just have the and like their name's podcast. Like, if you're stuck on the name, just choose your name or your business name.
Pat Flynn. His thing or her thing is the Pat Flynn podcast.
No,
right?
His podcast is called the Smart Passive Income. Like, the ones that do really well, you can like, they just have the simplest podcast names, or just like use ChatGPT. Like, that's also another tip. Like, ChatGPT helped us a lot in our podcast naming.
Oh my God. Poor ChatGPT has been through it with us in every area of our business and personal life. We might throw that in there. And we keep threatening it, but we have not talked about AI enough. Like, we were going to do a whole prompts or something, but we'll get to that. Yeah. We have to be inspired and have a lot of detail for that. But yeah. So if you are looking as a business owner, to start a podcast or a YouTube channel to get more visibility, bravo. That's a great idea. It is a really great idea. But don't just pick one, just pick both and do it messy and get started, and send us a DM on Marketing Duo Podcast on Instagram. Send us a DM. If you started a podcast, send us a DM and let us know what it is. We might feature you in an upcoming episode.
We want to start featuring you guys. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, have a great day. Thanks for showing up and listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you soon.